Welcome back to Dream Dust Expo 2022. That's again? Okay. Come when you're ready. Hi, everyone. Good evening, and welcome back to Dream Dust Expo 2022. We are at our final panel talk for today, but don't worry, we saved the best for last. So, this panel talk is called Word from the Wise. Why the Wise? Well, today we'll be talking with two of Jamaica's best known animators and talking more about them and their experiences with working both locally and internationally, trying to get some inspirations from their process, how their career has unfolded over the years, and to hopefully inspire some of us who might be willing or ready to take similar paths. So without any further interruptions, let's introduce our panelists. First up, Corey. Let's go.
I was like, am I going to be the guinea pig or Greg? Because alphabetically, Greg should have come first, but it's fine. Hi, everyone. I am Corey Thompson. I'm a Jamaican 2D animator, illustrator, and designer. Been doing animation since, I think, what's it, Greg? Since 2012? Or
2011?
2012? Yeah.
Oh, there.
Yeah. Been worked on a few shows, quite a number of them with Greg, and I've been in the local space on and off. I currently work at Appliance Traders Limited within the marketing department as a designer, animator, video editor, and illustrator from time to time. So I'm always all over the place.
Greg.
Hi guys, Greg Harrison. Well, as Corey mentioned, we've been doing animation for roughly the same time. I, however, also do motion graphics and a bit of design. We did motion graphics for a bit longer than 2D animation, though, probably since 2004-ish, maybe. Do a few projects locally, internationally as well. Some of them I can talk about, some of them I can't. Right now, in addition to like freelance animation and motion graphics, I'm also doing motion design for the lab. So mostly commercials and so on for, can I talk about that? Some local clients, I don't know what else I can say apart from that.
Okay, mom's the word. No, I know you both mentioned that.
Serious.
Yes, they are serious, guys. Don't break NDAs, please. I beg.
Yeah.
So I know you both spoke of working both internationally and locally, but I think my first question is: have you guys ever like migrated temporarily for job opportunities? What was that process like? Greg, let's start with you this time.
I haven't by choice. I had the opportunity, well, quite a few times. I've had a few opportunities, but I realized that before the whole lockdowns and stuff, I could do the work from the comfort of my bedroom. So I kind of started to negotiate along those lines. And, you know, that's about Jamaican man mode sweet. So I have sweet talked my way into working from home when people wanted me in studios.
Okay. Corey, how about you?
I've had the opportunity extended to me a few times. At least 3 times. I remember twice back in about 2015 and 2016, when I was working with this studio in Halifax, Canada, Homina Animation. And the director wanted me to, I went there for the start of a show. Joel, I think you remember, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
Yeah.
And I was there for about 11 days. And when I came back, we were working for about a year and a half. And he wanted me back in. But you know how we usually say, you know, and everything with glitter is gold. It was sort of that kind of an experience. So I was hesitant to leave what I knew for something that seemed very shaky, being my second time in Canada. And the next opportunity was actually when I already said yes to teaching part-time at UWI for the animation program. I actually accepted that offer a week before I was presented with the offer to then go to Canada, and it could have been for somebody else. And really just because I'm a man of my word, and I couldn't have said yes to UWI 1 week, and they started preparing everything, and then a week later I'd be like, yeah, sorry, I can't take this because I'm flying out, and then everything is left in limbo. But yeah, I chose to stay because I wanted to make an impact here, or I wanted to make more of a contribution here than somewhere abroad where it's already established.
I think you both touched on two very important points. One, Greg, you were basically ahead of the curve with understanding that there are benefits from working from home, that you have the flexibility to do so. You don't necessarily have to fly out. And the elephant in the room is that international currency will have a lot more weight back home. So you can make a lot more from your you can do a lot more with your earnings here. And Corey, for you, the choice to stay, which for some of us it's a hard one. It's a hard pill to swallow because we tend to feel like it's probably a dead end. But what I'm hearing from you guys is that even though you guys decided to stay, still honing and building your craft to a point where you have that space to be able to negotiate, or you're able to go away, prove yourself, even though, as you said, the situation seems rocky, come back home and still have that opportunity to go again. So it's not like, if you don't go now, you probably won't get the chance ever again. It's about just keeping true to your craft. And I really find that really inspirational, because I think a lot of us here in the audience, we're hitting that plateau of, boy, I better me go learn Toon Boom and go abroad and work in a studio. And the point that you said that even though you had the chance to go to a studio, it still felt shaky. I think that resonates with me, because it's like, wait, so you're telling me that there's a chance I might still go up there and fail? Is that what you're saying?
No. To be honest, failure, I don't think failure is in the Jamaican DNA, and I would say that with my whole chest, because I remember when Greg, myself, and two of our other family members, at this point we call them family because they are, when we went to Canada the first time, we went to Mercury, the Mercury Filmworks. We felt like guppies because we never knew what we were really doing, and being there, being within the culture, was a slap in the face of saying, yo, you either have it or you don't. And we thought, boy, this thing look rough, and we don't know how we're gonna compete and compare with. And so while we were being tested with different shows and we're doing similar activities with some of the newer staff members, and some of them were from Algonquin College, Sheridan, and so on, there was a point, and it wasn't until later, like we were there for 7 weeks, it was probably like within the third or so week, that we had a conversation loosely with one of the supervisors and about what we were doing. And he said he has to hold back on what he's giving us because we are kind of ahead of them. And we're like, what do you mean? Because when you see them working, I want you to know them people are bad and are nothing to play with. But we never looked at our work as being on their level.
Yeah.
But they saw it like, yo, these guys are capable. And it wasn't until later on we had a little dinner with Greg. I remember Jeff, we were at his house.
Yeah, man.
And there was a conversation so profound, and I've carried that through to this day. What we experienced here and how we entered the animation space, we existed outside of the box. With the students within animation, they were in the box. So when they came into the studio, i.e. Mercury, they were operating in the box while we were outside the box trying to figure out how the box worked. So we didn't recognize the advantage
Remember that.
was that we existed outside of a space, so we weren't conformed. So we were on the edge doing risky this and that, and it worked. And so we didn't fit in, we stood out. And it made us stand out more, the fact that we were Jamaicans. So we have brand Jamaica there as leverage as well. But the truth is, we didn't have to be there to say, oh, we made it, or because we still don't feel like we make it. Me and Greg talk about this all the while. But we recognize we could stay home as long as we had the right setup. Barring JPS, Flow, digital, whatever it is. But if you have the right tools, you can market yourself. You can still reach them in whichever hemisphere they are, or whatever time zone, whatever situation it is. We can get the work done. So we don't necessarily have to go.
Nice. So you just spoke about like using brand Jamaica to your leverage and just believing in your talents. How does one even go about getting that type of link, like to work at a Mercury? Do we just put out good work and fingers crossed, like up some people post on LinkedIn and say, hey, look at me? How would one like pursue some of those
this
contacts?
one?
Great,
Sure.
that's true.
Because I think my experience is a lot different from yours, Corey. Because I went about it from a very unorthodox route. I have no formal training in animation whatsoever. Didn't do art. It was just luck. Where I ended up in animation, and it turns out that based on how my brain works, essentially, I'm very good at analyzing movement and recreating whatever I see.
Facts.
Right? So I used to tell myself when I just started, because everybody that I was working with was whether come from Edna or a draw from them idea, them me. So everybody was doing art from they were very young. Whereas I essentially, it's a sketch every now and then at school, but realistically, I was doing it on the job. So I used to tell everybody that I was working twice as hard to be half as good as everybody else. And because of that, I had to find ways to, one, be just as fast as everybody else without doing all the steps that they were doing. So I was always learning, always improving, and I use Corey, I use all the guys here as my measuring sticks to this day. I don't think I have achieved something until I can do it as good as they can, and up to now, it hasn't happened because as I improve, so do they. So I still have something to shoot for. And so what happens is because of this, I was doing a lot of work. And on top of all of that, I have horrible imposter syndrome up to this day. So even this word from the wise title, the wise part, I'm still looking at it side-eyed.
Right.
But yeah,
right. You get wise from experience, so you forever keep learning.
Word from the knowledgeable, yes. I don't know how wise I am at the moment. But yeah, it's the hard work is essential, but and I'm gonna speak very candidly. One of the things I don't like is when people say, work hard and you will succeed. Working hard is just half of the equation. You do the work because at some point, somebody somewhere will see the work and contact you. So it's a lot of work, but it's also a case where you do have to be at the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
And what happens is, if it's the right time and wherever you are in your development as an artist, you aren't at the right place, the opportunity will pass you by. So it's not just a case of trying to market yourself is one thing, but I find that the work tends to speak for itself a lot more than you speaking for the work.
Yeah.
And as big as the world is, the animation industry is very small. So you will do something here in Jamaica, and somebody from India will call you at some point because of something you did here in Jamaica.
Yeah.
Like I guess I can talk about this. I have a call tomorrow with a studio I've honestly never heard of before. because they saw something. I don't know what they saw up to now, to be honest with you. They saw something I had done years ago and decided to contact me last week because of it. So you just have to keep doing what you're doing, market yourself through your work instead of through your words, which is a bad thing to say because I'm a marketer.
Yeah, because you just say, you sweet mouth your way through things.
Yeah, but just to add to what Greg just said, that part about marketing yourself, you really and truly in today's world, you have to get over the FUF, which is the fear of failure, from the baby steps, the initial steps, as in putting your work out there. A lot of us will keep the work to ourselves because we feel like it's not good enough to be shown. But from a creator standpoint, that is a lot of audacity. It really is. Like, who are you to say that it's not good enough to be viewed by millions of others or whoever, when you don't even have the same appreciation that somebody else will for your work? Well, you consider your work, somebody may say like, yo, I'm inspired. And that starts a conversation and so on. So, and for me personally, putting the work out there allows me to see myself, knowing what my inspirations look like. Greg, and at a wider scale, different animators, different illustrators and designers, I can measure because I can see what their works look like, what mine look like, and see how much I need to do to get there. As Greg says, working twice as hard to be half as good. It's the same approach that I take, which is why the whole word from the wise are like, I feel like we're dead yet. We're knowledgeable, but I get it. It don't flow right. Word from the knowledgeable versus word from the wise. But get over the fear of failing or the fear of persons not liking your work. It's more about taming your ego and allowing yourself the breathing room to receive whatever opportunities you can from showing your work, because you do not know who is going to see your work. You don't know. I said it to Greg. I went to Pitchy Patchy sometime earlier this year, and after everything ended, I was taking some photos outside, and somebody just walked up and was like, "Hey, you're K-Dot." And I was like, "Excuse me," because nobody calls me K-Dot just randomly like that.
Yeah.
And he said he knows me from some Facebook posts I made way back when. I can't tell when last I used Facebook. But he recognized me and could have talked about the work. So I'm like, this man knows my work, but I have not been there. So you don't know who, you don't know when. But when that opportunity comes, it's best to be prepared than to just not, because that opportunity may never pass you by again.
Yeah.
Can I just piggyback on that for a bit? Fear of failure, I think, can really cripple a lot of people. So just get it in your mind from now, you are more than likely going to fail. The thing is, if you do fail at something, or in your estimation, fail at something, it doesn't stop there.
Yeah.
Because I can tell you personally, I've done projects with people, and because of what's happening, like in my own personal life, the work was fine, but in my head, the relationship was kind of botched beyond repair because a lot of moving parts were happening, which were affecting a lot of things with the work relationship. So I had to take that L, but in just being honest with the supervisors at the time, saying, "Yo, these are the things that are happening. So I understand that this is affecting what's going on. So I can step aside if you want me to." He said, "No, continue." And it turns out that I have worked with them a few times since then. So you will fail at things, whether it is with a relationship with somebody or with the quality of the work that you think you have. But you have to just get over that. And get over the idea of people not liking your work. Because newsflash, everybody won't like everything. Facts.
That's
You
true.
put it out there, you are the people who like it. If it's on a social media platform, you get a little double tap here and there. The people who don't like it, you will get essays. So it feels like the people who don't like what you do outweigh the people that do. But you have to just ignore that. Ignore the bad, focus on the good.
Yeah. Especially with the social media point. I also think the platforms are also changing in a sense where people who do like the work are now starting to vocalize that in the comments as well. But
Yeah.
as I say, we'll always have the one or two people who will, have something bad to say. And it's just sad that, the human psyche, you're going to latch on to that, because if you
Oh
feel
yeah,
like
man.
you've done a good job and somebody says, oh, well, this isn't all that hot, you tend to want to internalize it. But
Yeah.
The three things that let me put it like this, the three phrases that I'm getting from you guys, and Corey, Greg, I know you from before. So some of these stuffs just kind of bring up back memories. I remember three words. First, OFTP, opportunity favors the prepared. And I think that was something I first heard from Doyen when we had that class. Secondly, the reward of good work is more work. I think that came from you, Corey. And between I think it was you, Greg, who said between you guys, it was to fail early. Don't hold on to
Greg.
something.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, Greg. Yeah, man.
Greg
It was
is
like, do the work, put it out there.
wizard with the words. Yeah, man. Fail early. Yo.
It's like, we're going to fail early.
Fail early. The day Greg said it to me, I don't remember what project we were on, and I was like, yo, it makes sense. And for every animation project, the beginning is always a tricky part, especially with a new project that you're unfamiliar with. You're trying to warm up, you don't know if it's going to be done right, you don't know if the directors will like it, and so on. It's better to just do it at max for them to give a full-on review, so you can say, all right, dial it back, or you need to bump it up more. Fail quick. Because when you fail quick, you can progress smoothly afterwards. But the longer it takes to fail, problems.
Mm-hmm.
The thing I've learned is it doesn't matter what you're doing, whatever field you're in, you have a certain amount of bad work in you that you have to get out before you start doing good stuff. So get it out quick.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So on the discussion of failure helping young artists to get over that imposter syndrome, FUF, if you will, what's been your experience like teaching in the classroom, like getting these new artists and trying to break them out of that shell?
You can take that one, Corey. My teaching has stopped long before yours.
Okay. But for me, it's always about sharing the experiences, like my personal experiences, and I'll bring it back to Mercury and the moment when things changed for us. And for me, we used to complain about using the software, Toon Boom. We used to complain about files and how things look and whatever. So the truth is, we were living proof of a poor workman blames his tools. Because we had the right tools, we just never knew how to use them. So when we went to Mercury, we came with a skill and everything, because one of the things that Greg mentioned, working twice as hard as Jamaicans, people think, oh, when we leave here, oh my gosh, you're so hard working and whatever. We really don't do anything different. The only thing different is the compensation. It's foreign currency, so it weighs more, but it's the same mindset. So always grinding. So we have the skill sets and all of that. But Mercury team know how to work the tools. They knew what the tools could do. Number one, them understand it. We didn't. They knew the limitations. We didn't, because they'll break it and then go back to Toon Boom and say, hey, this needs to be fixed. This needs to be adjusted. So they had custom builds just for them, specific to the things that they wanted to do. So they were a testing site for Toon Boom. You only get to that point when you are just that good at what you do. And so it's one thing to be told all of that. But then when supervisors and different animators showing us what they did in the little downtime or just for fun, and we're sitting here like, that can do? Like, how you do? And it's like, oh yeah, this took like 45 minutes. I'm like, are you kidding me? They knew how to work it. And the thing that we took from them was learn how to make the software do what it does, and then you manipulate the results. So I failed before then to use the software properly. There was a project for it was for Hasbro. Yeah, for Hasbro. One of Greg and I's friends. He was working on it with me, but it was an issue for us. This is one downfall. Probably jumping. I don't know what questions they have, but it's probably jumping ahead. One of the downfalls of being here and not in studio is actually the pay, because half the time when some things are outsourced, if it's a large project, the outsourced money is minimalized versus what you get in the studio. Sometimes it's 50% less or more.
Wow.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And so I can be blunt, on that Hasbro project, we were being paid about 18 Canadian dollars per finished second of animation. So when you table that out, like you do, we're easily doing 1,000 frames on a few scenes of a few episodes, and episodes are like 3, 4, 5. So this is spanning months. So we're racking up thousands and thousands of dollars. But that was below 50% because we're outsourced and based on the regulations. If we were in studio, that would have been doubled.
Yeah.
You know? So, but it's still great for us because the value of the dollar and so on. But there was a point when we're working on a show, Champ Squad for Hasbro, when the client was in the early phases of figuring things out. And we two Jamaicans got the project at the very beginning to set up the scenes and do the early animations when builds weren't completed, scenes weren't completed. And we couldn't get paid until we actually completed a finished second of animation approved by the director of that project. But if it's going through the early weaning phases, we moved past a month and we couldn't get paid yet, because things were changing, builds were changing, characters were being developed to swap out, and animation had to be redone, and what was in the storyboard now has to be edited, and a new animatic is submitted. So a month and a half, and me and my brethren don't get paid yet. And I joined the project before he did, and I said to him, I don't think this project is going to be feasible for the two of us. And I told him ahead of time, and then when he joined, he realized that, yeah, it's not going to work out. And he has a family. So that was one of those moments we just had to bow out and hope for something else. So that was an L for me. And then the project developed later on because I see it running, but we just couldn't benefit from that, from the financial standpoint, and had to make a decision as soon as possible. So in the classroom, I tell my students those exact things. Put the ego one side. The ego is going to always tell you that you're either not good enough or you should hold back on doing something. And when your ego meets pride, yeah, that combination now becomes this big roadblock that you've set up for yourself and you find it difficult to pass. Now you enter the room with imposter syndrome and you have the unholy trinity. There's no way you can get past that kind of a block. So I always encourage my students to just try, just do. The quicker you can subdue your ego and control that mind, you'll be okay. You are stronger than your thoughts.
Yeah. You would think that these bigger studios would have the production pipeline like under wraps. You wouldn't expect to hear the same struggle stories that would happen out here.
Yeah,
but
it's far and few in between for me, but it happens. It really does happen. Down to the wire, like months down, and you hear that backgrounds aren't finished and so on. Because that happened to us when we were working on People Watching season 2. Up to the 6-month mark, backgrounds weren't fully developed, the rigs weren't fully developed, but we completed that show and we saw it probably a year later or so. Yeah.
It does happen quite a bit, because even recently I was on a project, and while doing an episode, assets were still being developed for that episode.
Yeah.
And we had like a week and a half turnaround.
Oh.
Yeah, man, it's
Okay.
always.
So that means that we're not doing as bad as we thought here locally.
Not
So
at
we're not.
all.
Definitely are not.
At all. So you see, we are hard on ourselves because, and I don't know if it's a
Yeah,
mindset, oh, it's first world versus us. But
that's
really and
exactly.
truly, the process is a process is a process. So for them, the process can be shaky, and you look at them like, well, getting the things together. What is this? I thought you guys would, but that's because we built up an expectations that they'd be flawless. But different shows, different teams, different studios, different scenarios. So sometimes it's smooth and easy. Other times it's hiccups and headaches.
Okay. I know you spoke to Greg. I know you spoke to being mostly self-taught. But was there any form of formal training that you got and that you'd recommend to others?
I've never actually had formal training. Everything I've learned, most of what I've learned has been on the job and from the people I work with. Because my philosophy is nothing can beat knowledge except free knowledge. So whoever I work with or am around, even if they think they know less than me, I still want to know what you know, because you might see it a different way than I do, which will help me in doing it my way. So it's just I learn from everybody I can at all times.
Lori, what about you?
It's pretty much the same, and it's attributed to the whole point of ego. When we talk about it now with the word from the wise and how we view ourselves. We had the same thing with Kingston when they wanted us to talk on making it in the animation industry, and Greg and I were like, "Who said we made it? Like, where are we getting this info from?" And we were just wrapping up 2 projects, and you know, I don't ever allow myself to feel like I've made it. I see where things are in the industry. Technology is changing, life is changing. We have to stay ahead of the curve, but it's difficult to do so. So we're somewhat behind. So it's always a case of playing catch up. I can't ever allow myself to feel like I am comfortable and I know it. I don't. When I see Greg's stuff and I know it's Greg's stuff, I'm like, yo, I have work to do. And so I'm watching tutorials. I am buying different courses, short courses, whether it's Coursera, Udemy, Skillshare, whatever, and learning different software. And then you really and truly need to have a curious mind. A curious mind goes in search for knowledge. And that is something that has worked to my benefit. It's knowing what is out there, knowing how you can make things easier. It doesn't need to be expensive. It doesn't need to be something that you feel is far out of reach. It can simply be a Google search, and you get pointed into the right direction, whether it's some tutorial on YouTube or, oh, you never know that this program could do this or that, and suddenly things change. So I'm always practicing. I'm practicing on the job. Every job has to be better than the last. So what I did on the previous, even if it worked, I try to deviate and do it better. So over a particular period of time, I need to be able to look at that body of work and see a development. And it cannot be linear. It has to be something that I say, yeah, man, this was rubbish. I don't know how the people them hire me. Nonsense. You look over here and it's like, this was all right, in the grand scheme of things, so I can't allow myself to be comfortable. There's too much changing in a second. So I need to keep working.
All right.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Before you move on, I think we do undervalue how useful Google and YouTube are, because Corey and I speak very regularly, almost every day. And there was something I saw on Instagram, some 3D thing I saw a few weeks ago, really cool. Share it with Corey and say, yo, how then do this? And I went out in search, I Googled for every night after work. I sat down on Google, sat down on YouTube. I couldn't find exactly what it was, but with the bits and pieces of info that I did find, I ended up figuring it out just a few days ago.
Yeah.
So
and
that's pretty much what you have to do.
Yeah. He shared that with me and I was like, yo, what? Because he's like, finally figured it out. And I'm like, I'm looking at it and I see this shot, like animation. I was like, all right, is that a new controller configuration? Something what happened on your screen? And he's like, no, the animation that we talked about and whatever. I was like, animation. I was like, oh. I was like, whoa, how? And then right there, it was a fascination. And these are the things that boost me. These are the things that says, yo, you need for pick up the slack and the work, because your brethren there is doing some proper things and he's ahead of the curve. You need to get there because I cannot be left behind. This is where my ego does come into play. I refuse to be left behind. So when it comes to them, if they elevate, I need to be here. If them go up so, I need to be here. Like, I have to. So when you did that, I was like,
what? Go ahead, sorry.
No, man. I was like, no, man.
No, I think that's a very important point, because we are all competitive. So I think we push each other for selfish reasons.
Yeah.
I think that's a growing thing because Corey, if you remember, myself, Delano, and Patrick were the same way, always trying to do each other. I'm noticing in the Dream Dust Discord, we're having that kind of competition. With my peers at Listen Me, with Jenny, it was like, I can't let Jenny outdo me. I can't let Nathaniel do for me. And I feel like it's really pushing us to that level where our work is starting to be seen as a global standard. Like we're slowly getting there, if we're not there already, where we're having more names and more art styles being put on that global stage to say, like, listen, we are much more than, and no disrespect to the flag, but we are much more than black, green, and gold palm tree. We can do amazing things. And if somebody do something that's cool, it's like, how can we top that?
Yeah.
And I think even Dream Dust series is a living testament for, like, just the website. Every year it's how can we top what we did. Oh, sorry, Corey, you were saying?
No, man. I was going to actually mention something or liken something to what you said. We're much more than just a black, green, and gold. So within my department, I tell people, and I tell people overall from way back, I'm not a master at Photoshop, but I can use Photoshop. There's a fundamental difference between, I Photoshop that versus, I Photoshop that. Like, nobody should ever look at my work and see and question or say, I Photoshop that. They're supposed to look and it's like, I Photoshop did that. Nobody should look at me and say Jamaica first. People should see the work and be like, yo, that bad. And it's like, you're from Jamaica. And it's like, you're from Jamaica? Yeah. Because that's what we got. So nobody saw nationalities or anything, that they saw the work. And it goes back to what Greg said, make the work speak. So the work you guys are doing with Dream Dust, with Listen to Me, people recognize that it is above a standard that they're used to seeing and are only familiar with it with, like, first world countries or top of the line studios, external of Jamaica, external of the region. So kudos to Uno. But that is exactly what we want. And that's exactly what Greg and I and our little group does. At least you have people to feed off. And that's an important thing, having people in your network, in your peers, who you share that competitive spirit, so you can grow with each other and learn from each other. Be receptive to learning.
I think you need that. Because without that, you're going to... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
It's okay. No, you go ahead. The floor is yours,
I was just echoing what Corey said. I think we do need that circle of people, because without that, you are going to at some point become stagnant. And that's when your development stops.
Yeah. That's true. So earlier you both spoke about staying in Jamaica. Well, you, Corey, especially mentioned staying in Jamaica and wanting to see the space develop. So in your opinions, how you think the space are going? We're going all right? Are we on track? Are we behind? Are we ahead of schedule? Well, if there's a schedule. But I know that everybody's working towards Vision 2030. Having a good industry.
I don't even know what vision we're working towards, but I just know that there's a lot of development happening and I like it. It never ended with me and my last project and animation is just whatever. Greg working on I've had to actually turn down a few projects simply because it just wasn't the perfect time because I was on some other project. And I have spoken to Greg. Greg has taken up some of those projects. So Greg is further than me. So no, I'm in the I need to catch up phase. You can shake him head and say no, but in the Jamaican space, a lot more is happening in animation, just like Dream Dust. That wasn't there 4 years ago and so on. I seeing stuff in different animation groups on LinkedIn, on TVJ and all them something. I'm like, this is exactly what we need. You know, the conversations happening, more animation productions are being requested locally. That is something that wasn't there. And especially coming out of, you know, COVID and so on, it's a good thing. It might be slow, but patience is really and truly key because they want to do it right. So what I'm seeing is a lot of things being done right, especially coming from a place where we started where things could have been done right, but they were rushed. Yeah. You know, and if patience were employed and people stuck to the plans, maybe things would have been different. But yeah, it's a good space from what I'm seeing.
That's the thing. Yeah, I don't think I can add anything to that while being diplomatic. So totally agree.
Okay. So now we're going to dive into the sad boy hours.
Okay.
What is the biggest regret of your career so far?
Ooh, biggest.
Yes.
All right. Let me think for a second. Well, I don't know if it's a regret per se, but I think I love 2D animation, a character animation specifically. But over the past month, 2 months, I've actually been thinking that maybe, really and truly, this is not for me anymore. The passion that I once had, I don't have it anymore. So I am more focused now on motion design and visual effects. So I think it's one of those things where I guess this is what parents feel when they're sending their kids off to college or when the kids move out, where you know that it's coming up and you have to say goodbye. But I think that's where I am now, where this thing that I do love, I genuinely don't think I can keep doing it and doing it well. So I have to just say bye-bye to it. So maybe the last project I did was the last project. I'm not sure yet. But I think I'm winding down to the end times where that is concerned.
I mean, before we get to you, Greg, you know, if you just dash one thing. So, you know, you have the skills, you have the network, you can develop your own things. If that's not something already in the pipeline.
That's the thing. You need a particular mindset and drive and attitude to develop your own 2D thing and have a team doing that. I'm honest with myself. I don't have that. I can do the visual effects. I can do another part of it, but the character stuff, I don't have it to lead my own thing where that is concerned. So not going to beat around the bush where that is. I doubt that's going to happen. If it does happen, it won't be soon. Never say never, because who knows? I might change my mind. But for now, let's just see what happens.
Okay. Thank you for being honest.
There are developments developing in the next few days, so I don't know.
Okay.
For me, that question is kind of counter to who I am because I don't really live with regrets. Everything is really a lesson learned. But if I were to say, you know, regret, there are some jobs, some projects that I regret taking on. And it's only because of hindsight, because I could have used that time to do my own. So I regret not spending more time developing my own IPs because I have IPs that have been sitting there gathering dust from way back when. And even just recently, I shared with Greg and my people, you know, a very ambitious project that I'm going to embark next year. It may have animation in it, but it is going to be a mammoth task. And that was birthed probably in 2016. And I'm just now getting into it because I'm deciding no more to do the thing that I want to do and not the things that other people want me to do. I don't have that passion, as Greg said. I don't have that anymore. So I want to produce the thing that I want to see in the medium that I want to see it, or the media. And I've done more motion graphic stuff now, as well as video, and Greg knows. And so I'm favoring that side of life too. But where the character animations are, and I have my things that I want to develop. There are IPs I cannot develop because I know way down the line, if they're successful, there are other players who can come back and say, hey, I was there. And so I'm like, I have to abandon those. And so, yeah, I kind of regret spending more time on other things versus my own IPs, because now I sit and think, where could they have been now and where could I have been? But I don't dwell on it, to be honest. I just keep them on the backlog and say, hopefully one day I get to tend to them.
Yeah. I just want to take this moment to just invite our viewers, if you have any questions for Corey or Greg, feel free to drop them here. I mean, they say they're not wise, but we know. We're not pay them no mind. So feel free to drop your questions while we continue talking.
This is the code word for old.
No, I didn't. I personally, I can say, so Greg, I still remember to this day that flower sack assignment that we got to do in Toon Boom. And yes, Corey, I'm not going to let it go. And it was one of the most tear-inducing assignments. But in hindsight, now hearing you speak, it challenged my brain to really think outside the box. And I link it to Corey's point of, you know the tool you're supposed to use, you know what's capable of. There's probably not one set way to do it, but how can you do it? And I think that has subconsciously stayed in my mind, because I think that same approach has been taken to me doing motion graphic work. That same mindset has led to me doing UI UX development. Like, apparently I'm a product designer and I don't even know it. So there's a whole other thing. Yeah, so I also feel Greg's point about, maybe sometimes taking a step back from animation, because is it that we should feel okay by saying animation might not be the end game, but it's a vehicle to a whole new other creative space that we probably even think coming?
Sure.
It could be. You just you really just have to have a discussion with yourself and be blatantly honest with yourself. Because sometimes it's probably just frustration. And truth be told, I think that the biggest breakthroughs you will ever have come right at the peak of your most frustrating moments. So if you push through the frustration, something will just click in your brain and you have a light bulb moment.
Yeah.
And then there are other times when it's frustrating, but that's not the issue. The issue is just that this thing that you're doing might just not be the thing to do. So you just have, everybody is different. You have to figure that out for yourself, but it's something that you really do have to think about.
Just to add on that, because that point is what I've carried now and carried for the last couple of years. There was a really, really talented photographer back at Edna, 2 years ahead of me. And he's a great photographer. And I saw him back in 2018, 2019 or so sometime before COVID. And it was he and his wife, his pregnant wife. So she was sitting and she called him over. I was like, hey, remember? I was like, hey, yeah, man, we're talking and so on. And ironically, the week before that, I was in a taxi and I heard his name mentioned in relation to this large organization, and they do some annual staff shoot and whatever. And I was like, love to know that he's still doing it after all this time. So upon him coming over, I said, hey, I heard the name on the radio the other day. He didn't ask what you're talking about or whatever. He just said, that's the only photo shoot I do for the year. So he immediately knew what I was talking about because that's the only thing he does. And I said, really? And I mean, when I say really talented, he was ahead of his time because he had other photographers, those from Edna Manley and those outside of the Caribbean and within the Caribbean flying in to purchase his work. I remember going to exhibitions and seeing the little red dots beside his experimental photography and so on, which was like a combo of photography and some digital photo manipulations. But is you look at them and you say, a Photoshop that? It's from them times there, right? And when I said, that's the only photo shoot, I'm like, he said, yeah, he couldn't wait to leave Edna so he could just stop doing photography. And I was like, what you mean? That don't make no sense. I looked at him and I guess he could see the WTF on my face, if I can say that. And he looked at me point blank and said, and it stuck with me to this day, not because you're good at something means you have to love it. And so because of that, it was a proper reality check for me. I'm good at a lot of things. And when I talk to different persons within different spaces, conversations will come up, not necessarily conversations that won't necessarily come up in other spaces. When I tell people I used to produce music and so on, it's different times, different spaces, left that. Was good at it, never nurtured it, I nurtured something else. Never loved this, so I stopped doing this for something else, and so on and so forth. And so I had to really and truly face myself and say, I don't like this, or I do enjoy this, and so on. And so because I'm good at certain things doesn't mean I still love it. So if I don't animate tomorrow, it doesn't mean I don't love animation. It just means I probably don't love doing it anymore. I can still be good at it because I'm good at a lot of the things at my job. But if they're supposed to ask me, oh, you love it? And I was like, I love the paycheck. Let's be real. I'd love to be doing something else, but food I have to eat and whatever. But no, the truth is you can be great at what you do and you don't have to love it. But there's a level of pride and discipline within you that won't allow yourself to settle for mediocrity. So you won't do your worst, and people will see it and they'll love it for you. But you just keep producing your best and do what you love whenever you can, however you can.
Yeah. Do you think
That
that's
being
somewhat
said-
related to the sunken cost fallacy? Like, I've invested so much time in this, I can't just give up. So, like, animation students, I've invested so much money into doing this. How can I just switch and do something else now?
No, because for me, time is my currency. And it goes back to the audacity thing because I saw a post with an artist who I felt like was draping me up. It's an audacity for an artist to declare a piece finished. Because at what point do you say this piece is finished? So yeah, I don't think that if I come to a realization that whether it's months or years of working on something that I no longer like it, that I should still push through simply because I've spent all this time doing it. I maybe spent all this time doing it to know that I've exhausted all my channels and all my love and so on, and now it's time to move on. And I've done that with several projects. They're still there, but I no longer have love for them. I'm glad that I did them, but I don't have the love for them. No, it's time to move on. And I just move on.
Yeah.
And just to add to that, as I think I look at it a little bit different from you, Corey, where that is also a factor because spending so much time on this thing, kind of have rose tinted glasses on, whereas you don't accept that maybe you should be doing something else. But what I will say, and it's how I've lived up to this point, I'm at the point now where I can do what I want. But at a point, you're going to have to do what you need to do so you can do what you want to do later. I have done the need to do all this time, and I'm fortunate enough to have been in a position for a little while now where I can do what I want to do.
Yeah. That's kind of where I think we are now. Greg more so than me because he's still working from home. I still have to traverse the roads, but I do have perks. And it's because essentially we've paid dues. So now we're at the point where we can say, okay, we're going to invest more time for self-care, more time doing the things that we want to do. And people say, oh, you need to do. It's like, if I come, I'm going to resign. Let's not go down that road,
One of my conditions now is the remote. But being able to do what I'm doing remotely, that is no condition. That's before COVID. That was a choice I made where if you need to see my face and it's not on a camera and that is iffy, sorry. Next time. I can recommend some people, but I won't recommend myself.
And you see, the thing is, I completely get it because you don't know until you enter certain spaces. And I've entered different spaces for work. My little setup is my setup that trumps whatever setup I have to work with. If you are not giving me the tools that you saw me do through my work to hire me, you're asking me to work below a standard, which I refuse to do. So we can have a discussion there and there out. You either give me the same tools or better that I work with at your place, your establishment, or you leave me within the confines and comfort of my setup to do the same work that you want to do in less time with the same quality and you pay me. You can't have your cake and eat.
And eat it.
Actually, one of the... Sorry, Corey.
No,
go ahead when you finish. I'm doing some work with somebody now where I think it was last year they had mentioned me last year? Yeah, early last year. Me coming into the office. And throughout the director said, come into office, blah, 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 blah. And throughout all of that, we're talking on WhatsApp. I took a picture of my setup and sent it. And the response I got back was, oh. That's it.
I remember that.
That was it. It's never been brought back up again.
And I've done that.
You like my work, then you have to use my tools.
Exactly.
If I'm going to spend half my day frustrated at the tool itself, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Guys, I'm seeing a lot of people in the chat really resonating with your words. I think some of us are having a moment where it's like, oh, is this the feeling that I've been feeling? And with that love comes the question, where can I follow you guys? What are your socials? Where,
Here is the thing now. Remember I mentioned being in marketing? I have been for quite a bit. I am I am on social media, but I'm not there.
Not even LinkedIn? That's like the social media Facebook, is it? The corporate Facebook.
Technically, yeah.
I don't know my name on LinkedIn, you know?
It's not your name?
It should be, but the URL, I don't even know. If you search at Greg Harrison, Greg with 2 G's at the end, you should find me.
Yeah, it's supposed to be there.
My LinkedIn know that I'm thinking about it.
You see, so I'll say this. Of the lot of us, I'm probably the only one who actually updates like website and so on with content. And that's only when I get to do my own thing, really and truly. Otherwise, I don't share much on social media. And so like that's something that is within the group, we don't take to social media first. The irony of us saying, put your work out there. We don't.
Yep.
What we do is like, okay, get this, and then we run go back into the cave or into the lab, and we do a little thing, and then months later, or a year later, or years later, you see something like, oh yeah, still alive, still breathing. Here, boom, you see some gray hairs, bah, gone again.
Great.
The second to last post I made on Instagram was a while back. And before that, it was over a year. And I made the post, yes, I'm back. And
Disappeared.
yeah, man. Like, the plan was there, the drive was there, but then.
Yeah.
And I think on Instagram, I should be gregharrison.me.
Yeah.
I double check that before, man.
Gotta ask,
People just spam strangers.
gotta ask our DDX admins to just get on that. Or if you guys can shoot us the URL, we can spread it to the community afterwards. Can put it in the description.
Yeah, can definitely do that. Can definitely do that.
All right, got you. So I see that most of us, our questions have gone through the window. We've mainly just been soaking in. I think you guys have done a tremendous job of, just answering any questions beforehand. And I see that we're over time by 11 minutes. So the final question is, given all that was said, if I still decide to leave Jamaica, what would your parting words be?
If you do decide to leave Jamaica, keep doing what it is that you were doing in Jamaica. Grow and develop in that, but don't change what it is at its core. Because it is what it has been at its core that has led you to wherever it is that you end up. You have to hold on to that.
Yeah.
In a much less sophisticated response, as what Greg said, because it's something I tell people all the while, something I tell myself, anything new and frightening, because if you're anxious about something, you're nervous, it's a sign of respect. It means you don't have the arrogance to think that you're beyond this and this is beneath you. But if you're supposed to leave tomorrow, I'm going to tell you, them no more than you. That is something I said to everybody who I hear them say they want to leave and go wherever. As Greg said, exactly what you did to get to this point, keep doing it. When you go wherever, you're going to realize, oh, they're not using a special machine. They're not using a special version of Windows or Apple or a special version of the same software that you're using. They're using the same things. You can watch the tutorials on YouTube and so on. And you're like, yeah, man, you see it and you do it and you do it and you're done. And you say, I did it. You did the same thing that they did. You just got an insight to their methodology. But you are do the same thing with them and do them no more than you. You're just Jamaican, you have the advantage. So carry that. Keep doing what you're doing and just remember when imposter syndrome pops up, if it pops up and says, oh, maybe I shouldn't be here, just say them no more than you. And say it with a smile and the whole of your chest.
Not just half.
Funny enough, Corey, that reminds me of something my father used to say. He used to tell me this all the while growing up. No matter where you go, people might be as good as you, but they're not better than you.
Facts.
That's something that has stuck with me to this day. It doesn't matter how good you are. Even if I'm not there yet, there's nothing stopping me from getting there apart from time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I like that note about time because a lot of us feel like we're running out of time.
You are.
It's audacity. Yeah. It is audacity. We don't know what's going to happen 5 minutes from now because the truth is, you could be doing everything you've been doing for however long. And we have several big names, the J.K. Rowlings and so on, who never get them breakthrough till late in life. You just need one yes, And it's the right yes. When that right yes, that right opportunity knocks, time is no longer a factor. I promise you. If you do something right now, after slaving 10 years to get to this point, and somebody look point, and every time, let's say arbitrarily, every time you've done these things, people pay you $100,000, and all you've ever amassed in your life is $500,000. You say, cool, that's the most money you ever make. And this one time after 10 plus years, somebody look upon you and say, for this one task and everything after that, may I pay you $500,000 for each and everything. That's way more than 500%. You will never be sitting there thinking about the $100,000 instances at any point in time. You will not be thinking about 10 years and such. You're going to be thinking about that one moment. It's only upon introspection or if some conversation happens that somebody asks, how long have you been doing this? You're going to say, I've been at this for 10 years. The 10 years helped you to get to that one moment of yes.
Yeah.
So time is a currency. Don't you can play with it in the right context. But time is really a construct because when the right thing happens to you, time doesn't exist. It becomes a play field.
Wow. And with that, I think we have had such a great session. I personally am walking away with so much more. I think I'm walking away with more questions than answers, but these are questions as grade 6 to ask myself about where I am and where I want to be, and just applying all the knowledge that you guys have shared with us here today. So a word from the knowledgeable? Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
No, great. You don't have the ring.
You don't have the ring.
You can't put that as a hashtag word from the knowledge. It's like, no, man, that's too long.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you for joining Dream Dust. Hopefully next time, next time is bigger and better. Corey and Greg, you have to come in person. You have to come in person. I'm saying this on live. So you know.
Get the date and don't be late.
Let us talk.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks again.
Yep. Where's our director to say and see?